So I just got a commission through for a frog hat. I will show you what they look like, and I am just going to run one up on my machine and show you how I make these little froggy dudes. I hope you enjoy this video. It's more of a craft with me rather than a tutorial, although I will walk you through what I'm doing. I have a Sentro 48 pin knitting machine and I love it very much. I am going to set this back to this pin here. That is our 48th pin, so I cast on missing every other pin. Alright, and then I'm back to the start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the yarn in the channel. So I'm working with an acrylic yarn here to cast on, and I'm using the waste yarn method so that when I use the wool that I'm actually using for this project, because it's the first couple of rows are always very loose when you work on the machine. So I'm just going to set the counter back to 0, and I normally do about 10 rows. I tend to reuse the waste yarn. I quite often make pom-poms with the wool that I used to cast on and off when I can no longer keep reusing it. It's always best to have a little puddle of yarn. See, this bit's kind of gappy, it's a lot looser than here, and that's the bit that we don't want. Now that I've got 12 nice little rows, I'm going to take this out, and then I am going to pop the new one in, and I'm going to leave a nice tail, because that just makes my life easier. Just reset the counter and continue. Doing 65 rows, so I'm now on 50, so I've actually only got another 15 more rows and then the cast off waste yarn to do. I have finished. What I'm now going to do is I am going to leave a very long tail, and I'm going to use some waste yarn and I'll show you how I cast off. You want a tail that goes at least all the way around. There we go. Annoyingly, you will lose this at the end, but it just makes it easier for sewing up, and like I say, pom-poms are always an option. So I'm just going to reset the counter so I know how many I've done. All I've done is I've cut it off, and one of the great things about using waste yarn as well is that you don't have to pick up every stitch and make sure you haven't dropped any. You can just do this. So much easier. So now I get to the fun bit. My hat looks like this. It's a tube. And then all I do is I give it a bit of a stretch so it gets a lot longer, and the stitches look a lot tighter and tidier once you've done that. So you can see both of these tails here are in evidence. I'm going to pull this through so that it's folded in half, so it's double the thickness. Then what I'm going to do is make sure that this bit and this bit line up. My Sentro came with this needle. I find it's a little bit long for what I'm about to do. I prefer this one. It's just a darning needle. So each of these little bobbles here, that's a stitch that we want to keep. So I need to make sure that once I've threaded my needle, that this piece of thread, or this piece of yarn, goes through each corresponding one. We'll be cinching the top of this to make the crown of your hat. But I want to make sure that I go through here, and then you just go through each like little bobble, each stitch. You can see, I find it's a lot easier to remove this before you cinch up, so that's what I'm going to do. What I like to do is this. It's a lot quicker. Now, another thing you can do if you aren't using very thick wool is you can find the last stitch that you did, you can pull it, and that's just going to pop off. So what I'm going to do is pull this one. So this is the piece of yarn that I used to sew up. So what I'm going to do is pull it. Now I like to do this quite gently. I like to then spread out the gathered pieces to as close to the other end as possible, so that when I pull my threads I don't end up with a hat which is really gathered on one side and not at all gathered on the other. As tight as you can get it, but not so tight that you snap your yarn. And then I just tie these two together. You might find you have a little hole. You can either cover this with a pom-pom, or in the case of the froggy hats, I sew it closed. As with Froggy, we need to make some eyes. I like to pull these. You can see it's starting to look a little bit more like a frog. The next thing we're going to do is secure it so he has his little eyes. Using the same yarn, I'm just going to go through. I find genuinely the easiest way to do it is just to sew several stitches here. That will keep your eye in the position that you want it to be when we do the embroidery. Then the beauty of it being double-sided is you can just put it through a layer. You can cut the tail off and you don't have any loose ends. I find that these just look the best. If you don't have this, you've just got wool, you can embroider the eyes on with wool. So the eyes are made out of, I believe, acrylic felt, although I bought this second hand, so I don't know the exact fibre content, but the feel of it, I'm going to say it's 100% acrylic felt. This hat is suitable for vegans, although even if we keep sheep as pets, they still need shearing. I'm afraid, coming from a rural background, I find not wearing wool a little silly. It's an incredibly sustainable fibre. I understand that people don't like it, but I get it completely. I am very against large-scale farming, but I still think the wool is a better choice than plastic, which this is. This will unfortunately not biodegrade. One day, when I have enough money, I can say that I will only work in natural fibres. I do also use mostly second-hand materials. I like my froggies to have like quite a cheerful little face. You don't want it too far down or it doesn't read as a frog. You don't want it too tall or it just reads as a bit derpy, and I'm just sort of trying to make sure that both sides line up. I'm just using a back stitch or a running back stitch out where his little face needs to go. I say he, it's a completely genderless frog. I don't feel like amphibians subscribe to the same gender rules that we do, you know. I feel like you ask a frog what their gender identity is, they're just gonna go, ribbit. Another rows of back stitch, and that will just thicken the line and mean that we don't have any gaps, like that. I won't pull it tight because I don't want a big bump, but I just do that, and then I just weave the ends in. There you go, our adorable little froggy hat is complete and he is ready to go off to his new home and have an adventure in the postbox tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found making this little guy good fun. I know I do. I'm very excited whenever I get an order for a froggy hat. I'm like, oh yes, I get to make a frog. I've also made bears using exactly the same technique, except these are ears and I put eyes a bit further down. There you go, froggy hat. You can make your own froggy hat if you like, or you can purchase one from my shop. The link is in the description below, or you can find me on Depop at Zoe's Story. If you like this video, give me a comment, let me know what you enjoyed, what animal should I do next. I am very happy to make as many animal hats as we can think of animals to do. So we've done bear, chicken, dinosaur, frog. Got another one, what was the other one? Oh, ladybird. So I've done 5 little animals so far. So I think it would be good fun to do different ones. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any tips, suggestions, drop them down below. I'm always happy to hear other people's ideas. I love learning from other people. And I hope that you enjoyed this and found it cozy and relaxing and whatever else you need your YouTubing to be. At the moment I'm kind of trying to average 1 to 2 videos a month, and if you want to know when my videos are there, you can just click the little bell below and it will let you know every time I post a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in another adventure later on.